So I have an all-time story about outlasting the storm, about turning challenge into opportunity. And I'm celebrating a bit, and I'm telling you how I outlasted the storm in my life and how you can too. Take a look on the other side.
The greatest threats these days are psychological, in the way of extreme narcissism, unfairness, bullying, and more. Jon Myers is bringing solid remedies.
So I sincerely believe that the storm that I was confronted with was one of the all-time storms. And when I talk about, I'm not talking about a literal storm, a weather type of storm. I'm talking about an attack from other people and opposition that will come in life. And for those who have high ideals, you're going to face challenges. You're going to face storms in life. And for those who really are blessed in a way, you're going to be attacked unfairly in life. And I'm talking about mainly spiritual attacks, not physical per se, but when people really come against you. And I just had this monumental and opposite. The one thing I want to say is that when you're facing this kind of opposition, generally it's unfair, it's irrational, it comes out of the blue, this kind of thing. And so that's the kind of opposition that I face in my life. And I'm not going to, my younger brother carried rages from childhood. And, mainly we had a normal situation. There were a few puffs here and there, whatever. But, mainly you can't help, the order of your birth or this kind of thing. Or who wins childhood wrestling matches and basketball. That's just life. That's childhood, right? But that was part of it. But then it just grew. And so the storm that I was confronted with grew, families started coming, there's this whole notion of creating a black sheep in the family. And generally that's one who's probably potentially healthier. And, unhealthy people want to gang up on people. And so that was it. And then the next one, going back almost 30 years, I had a late ex-wife who initiated all this separation, divorce, and she was used as a tool. And anyway, long story short, I had, the courts to, a humongous amount of opposition. And what you have to tell yourself, one thing right away, what I was telling myself is, wait, this is all irrational. I'm right. I had a lot to learn and a lot to grow, but I was basically right in the situation. And so one of the first things you have to do when opposition comes against you is to assess, am I right? Am I really right? Not in some, really agitated, emotional way. Well, I might be right, but am I right? Is there an issue of fairness here? Is there an issue of purpose here? And in my situation, even though I was kind of but could have been overwhelmed, or so many people came against me, I basically had a stance. And that's why you show that little acorn that digs in the ground, growing into a mighty oak, is that, I basically felt, that I did not know everything, but I knew I was right. There was an issue of fairness in some way, and the people were coming against me in a way that was exceedingly unfair. And those are the kind of things where you have to say, no matter what the odds, if you're right in a situation and it's a matter of importance to you, be it your career, something you really believe in, your children, financial things, you've got to, those are the moments like that little acorn, you've got to dig in and say, I'm not giving up. And it doesn't mean you can lash out. Pardon me. And this is another facet of what I'm getting at, is that the storm in my life, when you're right and you're dealing with unfairness, it can, and this is why I get into like how people produce societal change more than protesting on the streets. If you want to produce, if you're right and the situation's unfair, it could take a really long time to demonstrate that. And that's where you have to see, where I saw that, this was a situation of basic fairness, and I wasn't, I'm right. I'm seeking fairness. I'm not seeking retribution. So, I'm going to dig in, and I'm just not going to give up. And so certain facets of this have gone on 29 years. Can you believe that? Being in a situation, but this is the thing that you have to accustomize yourself to, that when you're right and it's something that matters to you and you have more prerogative in that situation than the other parties, you've got to be prepared to outlast. That's where the term outlast the storm comes. And so, irrational opposition, irrational opposition will seek to denigrate you, falsely attack you, portray you as something you're not. And you have to get really focused on that and accustomed to, attuned to that's what people are going to do. And again, if you know that it's not right, it's not fair, you're going to dig in and say, look, I'm going to stick with this. And one of the keys that I always say is you have to learn to be appropriate, okay? You have to learn to be assertive, not aggressive and not passive. And so because, anger, if you get angry and lash out, it's going to kill your efforts. So this is another facet of outlasting the storm, is that the storm comes, and if you dig in and you say, well, I'm going to take this on, I'm going to do it appropriately, the storm eventually is going to diminish and you're going to grow. And this is a key point. In my life, I grew a great deal in terms of, determination, not stubbornness, respect for others, but not, worshiping other people's points of view, determination, grit, ruggedness, gentleness, all mixed into one. All these things kind of grew as part of my journey, because when you stand in, you're going to have a lot of wins and a lot of losses, okay? The road's going to go a lot of zigzag, a lot of ways. The mountain's going to go up and dip down, and you're going to go different ways. You're going to have uncertainty. All these things are going to happen. So, as I say, I believe that the situation confronting me is one of the all-time, certainly in factoring in irrational and opposition, one of the all-time legendary stories of irrational opposition, like hatred, rage, jealousy, coming at another person. And mine just decided, like, hey, I'm going to stick in there. I'm going to see this through. And so I'd like you to gain some, experience from my story. I do provide training and coaching, and mediation. You can take a look at our website and get that. But what I encourage people to do, what I urge people to do is when to make that calculation early on. Does it matter? Is it unfair? And am I right? Basically right, not, crazily right, but am I basically right? And in that, you're going to have to roll up your sleeves and dig in. And it could take, I was at a point in my career, my life where, most issues would take, if I ran for office and was elected eventually, it might take 6 months, a year, 2 years to get over a certain hump, but you would do it. And in this situation, it took me 29 years to outlast the storm. And, it's not totally done. I haven't got all my rewards, but, they're coming, God willing, bless me. I believe they will be there. But the rewards too, in terms of outlasting, is when things no longer bother you, where that it's nonsensical, and you could go on with your life every day, even if you don't have all the things you want. You've accomplished what you needed to do. You've become the person you want to be, and that's the magic of our coaching. And that's what I've done, and that's what you can do, and that's what I've done. And I'd really love to see you get to that place and bring positive energy into this world. Don't give up on it. Reach for your dreams. Turn challenge into opportunity. Believe in yourself.